the American voter and Donald Trump just don't have a tariff problem of Donald Trump's making, where more than 50% of the tariff cost is passed on as a tax to the American consumer, where Christmas and holiday presents will be 15% more on top of regular inflation because of the tariffs. He doesn't just have a tariff problem. He has a cryptocurrency problem. And he has people no longer believing in Donald Trump and voting with their investment in his companies. His value of his companies, family-owned companies, have shed $1 billion just in the last month or two. It's yet another reflection of the American rejection of Donald Trump and his policy. See, the ground has shifted underneath Donald Trump. The narrative has changed, and he just hasn't gotten the memo. He's completely clueless. He's busy shuffling off of Marine One like he's coming out of some sort of stupor, sending late night or early morning 5 a.m. messages to the New York Football Giants, telling them they should have gone for the field goal instead of the touchdown. This is where this guy is at right now. And I think there's no greater reflection. If you're looking for a indicia of his unpopularity, it's the hit to cryptocurrency, which he's effectively staked his whole administration on. The impact on his not only his own fortunes, but what it means for the social media company, Truth Social, that he owns, how poorly it is doing, how it's dropped 60 or 70% in stock price. And for me, that means that Donald Trump's unpopularity, which is already in the polls and will be his undoing at the midterms, along with the MAGA party, which is splintering before our very eyes, that is another indicia that people are pulling their money out of Truth Social because they don't want to be affiliated with Donald Trump. See, it used to be people would proudly say in the MAGA world, I invested in Donald Trump. I'm supporting Donald Trump. I bought his stock. And now they are selling that stock off left and right. You're here on Legal AF. It's Monday. Let's look at these economic indicators around the Trump administration and around Trump's family fortunes as another sign of an administration that is going down the drain. And Donald Trump knows it. Did anybody catch him coming off in the last 24 hours after a round or two of golf? Him coming off of Marine One, the helicopter, barely acknowledging the Marine guard standing there, tripping on the last step, walking in his own weird way to the White House as if he just spent a week or two, in a coal mine or picking fruits and vegetables in a field. Man up. But you can see it's just the weight of all of his bad decisions, which are not only crushing the American dream, but they look like they're literally crushing him as well. He looks like Sisyphus trying to push the rock up the hill, and it keeps rolling back down. He's got to do it all over again. Was that the one that he was also had his liver pecked at by birds, something like that? Anyway, let's go back to Donald Trump. Trump media, Trump Social, decided they were going to buy a lot of cryptocurrency to shore up their balance sheet. See, their media company sucks. See, their Truth Social platform, barely anybody's on. We just got new reporting based on Elon Musk's X, used to be Twitter. They finally revealed the location of a lot of these popular accounts. It turns out a lot of the MAGA right-wing influencer accounts are not even American. They're made in Europe. They're made in Thailand. Right. Outsiders trying to influence our election cycle and prop up a failing Donald Trump from their perch overseas. So you've got that going on. So Truth Social, nobody's on it but Donald Trump. And it's shed $800 million in value since he became president. The stock price is down from a high of $40 when people were high on Donald Trump, and now they're selling Donald Trump short. He's now down to $10 a share. I mean, that company is so aligned with Donald Trump and his ego and his fortunes and his political success that the stock ticker symbol is DJT. So DJT dropped, rejected by the American investor, and shedding 66% of its value. Over $1 trillion in total value, almost $1 trillion in total value has already been wiped out of Truth Social, meaning there's a lot of investors, mom and pop investors, who got wiped out. But if you bought at 40, you're now looking at 10. Now, Donald Trump doesn't ultimately care because his family fortune went down about $1 billion from $7.7 billion to $1 billion. Now, when he was just a middling real estate developer in New York, having gone through a series of bankruptcies, I mean, his total wealth was probably around $1 to $2 billion. When he was busy fraudulently cooking the books in New York that became the subject of the civil fraud case in New York and the $450 million judgment, he was hovering around $1 to $2 billion. This is 8-9 years ago. He's now up to $7 billion. A lot of it a sucker's bet by people that invested in him. World Liberty Finance, another company that's owned by himself, by Steve Witkoff, who's his special envoy, along with Jared Kushner, that just negotiated that unholy peace deal written by the Russians, literally trying to shove down the throat of Ukraine. Steve Witkoff and his son have a piece of World Liberty. $3 billion loss since the Trump administration started with World Liberty. Token value having been cut in half from $6 billion to $3.15 billion. Most of those tokens owned by Donald Trump himself and his family. I mean, cryptocurrency itself as a whole shed $1 trillion in value in cryptocurrency since Donald Trump declared it to be the golden era of cryptocurrency. I mean, you remember when Bitcoin was up at like 115,000? It's now between 80 and 85,000. And yet Eric Trump and Don Jr., Steve Witkoff and his kid, Donald Trump, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, his family at Cantor Fitzgerald, all heavily invested in cryptocurrency. Eric Trump decided to buy into a Bitcoin mining operation. Well, when Bitcoin plummets from 115,000 down to 80,000, Bitcoin mining is not that sure of a bet any longer. It's down 50%. His stake in American Bitcoin is down 50%. Now, even though the Trump family is down, let's say, $1 billion in value, in worth, they're still at $6.7 billion according to Bloomberg. They don't have to worry about the fact that the meat prices have doubled and coffee is up 20% and Christmas gifts are going to be up 17% because of tariffs. They don't care about that. They haven't had to make ends meet. They haven't had to decide whether to buy a pizza or put on the electric in the house. They haven't had to decide whether to eat 2 or 3 times a day or have enough money to buy medicine. They don't have to worry about whether they're going to pay a bill with a shutoff notice or give their kid or their senior the supplies that they need to survive. They don't care about that. Now it's all, you're seeing it all now. There's now permission for MAGA and Republicans to reject Donald Trump. You hear it in the commentary that's on the news. People that, well, I have to double check the Chiron to see if this is the same person I heard 6 months ago, talking about the abysmal economic numbers for Donald Trump, talking about the abysmal electoral numbers, polling numbers for Donald Trump, talking about the abysmal election night 3 weeks ago. I'm like, who are these people? Because there's now permission to oppose Donald Trump. His grip on power has slipped. His grip on power has slipped, and he's not going to be able to reclaim it. It's a combination of the economy. That's number 1, number 2, and number 3 in people's minds. Affordability, as we like to say, and the Epstein scandal, which is I'm trying to think, I guess it's a metaphor is the right way to put it, for everything that's corrupt about Donald Trump, all in one place. Him protecting and defending child sex traffickers, him having multiple relationships with predators and child sex traffickers, and the cover-up around it. The American people just won't abide it. And they won't abide the heartlessness that we saw Donald Trump on full display during the shutdown, building golden ballrooms, building golden bathrooms, golfing for millions and millions of taxpayer dollars. Why? While average Americans suffer. While 42 million Americans didn't get their SNAP food supplement payments, including 16 million children. America won't abide it. And now he's left, not just with this major crypto problem and the fact that people are voting with their feet and they're abandoning his stock, including the loyalists within MAGA, but I'll end it with the tariff problem. Donald Trump went on, listen to what he said. And by the way, he did this in the same breath, same 2-hour block of ranting, where he also attacked the New York Football Giants for not going for the field goal. All right? So let me just read to you from some of his ranting, which I do not think helps him at the United States Supreme Court. He says, despite the massive amount of money being made by the United States of America, hundreds of billions of dollars, this sounds like a tax, Donald, which if it's a tax, you're going to lose at the Supreme Court. As a direct result of tariffs being charged to other countries, the full benefit of the tariff has not yet been calculated, and that many of the buyers of goods and products, that's Americans, in order to avoid paying the tariffs, because it's a tax, in the short term, stock up by purchasing far more inventory than they can use in order to avoid tariff payments in the short term. So you just admitted that your own GDP, gross domestic product numbers and inventory numbers showing a healthy economy are fraudulent, are pumped up because people trying to avoid your tariffs bought more than they should have? Doesn't that admit that these are cost increases and tax increases, which kills your case at the United States Supreme Court? Because MAGA, even the MAGA 6 was like, how do you have the right to tax? Well, I have the right to regulate. It's a tariff. And they said, but it's a tax. It's being passed through to the consumer. Goldman Sachs just said it is. They just said 40 to 50% is being passed through to the consumer. New numbers show 15% are being passed through to Christmas and holiday gifts. And the more he says, I'm going to raise revenue, I'm going to make money with the tariffs, the more it defeats his tariff position that we're waiting on for the United States Supreme Court. Look, I side with the Wall Street Journal. The best thing that could ever happen to Donald Trump is that the Supreme Court rejects his tariff plan, starts doing the refunds, and lowers prices, because he got elected to lower prices, quote unquote, on day one. And now they're 3, 5, 8, 20, 40, 50% higher, depending upon what we're talking about. I'm going to continue to follow it all right here. You're on Legal AF on Monday. Hit the free subscribe button. We're going to get to 1 million subscribers, I think, before the holidays. Check to see if you are subscribed. Hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack and do the exact same thing. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.